pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Evan is on Zoom. Sorry. John is filling in for Ernie.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Pursuant to NJSA 10:4, the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this duly and regularly scheduled meeting of the Jackson Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been published and posted in all appropriate locations.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman?
Here.
Dr. Hofstein? Mr. Hudak? Ms. Rosal? Here. Ms. Bradley?
Here.
Ms. Martin? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Martins.
Here.
My apologies.
Do we have any resolutions this evening, Mr. Murphy?
We have 4 resolutions this evening. First resolution being resolution number 2024-56. This is a resolution of the zoning board granting variance relief for an accessory structure, which is 12 by 24 shed in front yard where it's not permitted, with other variance relief on property located at 2 Bain Lane, block 18101, lot 9.01. Eligible to vote on this particular resolution, Dr. Hofstein, Mr. Hudak, Ms. Rosal, Mr. Martins, and Ms. Bradley.
I need a motion and a second, please. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Dr. Hofstein? Yes. Mr. Hudak? Yes. Ms. Rosal? Yes. Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
We have resolution number 2024-57, resolution of the zoning board granting variance approval to permit construction of a new detached single-family dwelling on an undersized lot on property located at Indiro Road, block 2506, lot 21. And eligible to vote on this application are, Mr. Hudak, Dr. Hofstein, Mr. Hyman, Mr. Martins, and Ms. Bradley.
Motion to approve. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman?
Yes, and I just wanted to say thank you to our attorney for getting it so quickly.
Dr. Hofstein?
Yes.
Mr. Hudak? Yes. Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
This is resolution number 2024-58. This is the resolution of the zoning board denying side yard setback variance for an as-built accessory structure, which is a 10 by 12 shed on property located at 29 Meadow Run Court. That's block 2101, lot 1.17. Eligible to vote, Mr. Hudak, Dr. Hofstein, Ms. Rosal, Mr. Martins, and Ms. Bradley.
I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion. Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hofstein?
Yes.
Mr. Hudak? Ms. Rosal? Yes. Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
And then finally, we have resolution number 2024-59. This is the resolution of the zoning board accepting the withdrawal of the application for property located at 445 Bruce Bridge Road, block 13301, lot 19. As the zoning board saw, we did receive a withdrawal from the applicant Rosenblum with regard to their application. So this will be with withdrawal without prejudice.
Motion and a second, please.
Motion?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman?
Yes.
Dr. Hofstein?
Yes.
Mr. Hudak? Yes. Ms. Rosal? Yes. Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes. Is that the end of your resolution, Mr. Murphy?
That concludes resolutions, Madam Chair.
Do we have any minutes this evening? ones from last meeting, that's right. Do we have the meetings from, the minutes from our last meeting?
Yes,
Okay, so that would.
the ones that we
fourth,
withheld approval for.
From November 18th.
Yes,
Okay, so I've got my dates all mixed up.
me too.
I'm sorry, we have the meetings from November 8th. We need a motion and a second to approve.
November
please.
20th.
Motion?
second,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman?
Yes.
Dr. Hofstein?
yes,
Mr. Hudak? Ms. Rosal? Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes, and just to make sure I clarify the record, it was November 20th. Today is December 18th.
11:20 minutes, got it.
And I have a voucher for this evening from Jackson Township for our acting recording secretary for $175. I need a motion and a second to pay the voucher, please.
Motion?
second,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman?
Yes.
Dr. Hofstein?
yes,
Mr. Hudak? Ms. Parnez? Oh, I'm sorry, she's absent. Ms. Rosal? Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes. Announcements this evening, Mr. Murphy?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have one announcement. Application number 2, which is Erce Noe Guerva Villalobos, use variance 3519, block 18701, lot 46. Location is 747 Toms River Road. This application is going to be carried based upon the fact that it's a use variance, and we do not have a full 7-member board this evening, to the February 5th, 2025 meeting of the Jackson Township Zoning Board of Adjustment. No further notice will be required, and the applicant has waived time through February 28th of 2025. So if you're here for number 2, that application has been carried at February 5th, 2025.
Sorry, Ryan, did you say to read notice?
No renote,
No
no.
renotice?
There will be no requirement to renotice. So this is the announcement.
And we'll swear in our professionals.
If you would each please raise your right hand, and do we have Mr. Hill?
He should be on Zoom.
Oh, you don't have to stand. We're not that formal. Sit down. I guess I'll swear everybody in. Do you each solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony, information, questions, or comments that you're about to present before the board will represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you would each please state your name and position with the board.
Mr. LeCompte, you do have a microphone.
I can always swear Evan in, once we're finished. I'll swear since I just went through that. Would you each please state your name and your positions with the board?
Mr. LeCompte, you do have a microphone. It's on the bottom. Underneath, there you go.
I'm LeCompte with Remington Vernick. I'm a professional planner and a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey.
You're filling in for Mr. Peters this evening?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Gina Tumalo, Assistant Zoning Officer.
Thank you very much.
And just for the record, our town engineer is on Zoom, but we're having some technical difficulties right now.
And when he gets on, I will swear him
Swear
in,
him
Madam
in.
Chair. Okay.
Mr. Murphy, will we be having an executive session this evening?
Yes, we will. We will be having a brief executive session, and like always, I will read that resolution into the record. I would ask for a motion to adopt the resolution with a second, and then a roll call, please. Whereas the zoning board of the Township of Jackson is subject to certain requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4, and whereas Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12 provides that an executive session not open to the public may be held for certain specified purposes when authorized by resolution. Whereas it is necessary for the zoning board of the Township of Jackson to discuss in a session not open to the public matters relating to the item or items authorized by NJSA 10:4-12B. This evening, that matter being litigation, specifically the matter of Matzliak versus the Township of Jackson and the Zoning Board of Adjustment of Jackson Township, venued in the Federal District Court of New Jersey, docketed as civil action number 3:24-CV-101-RK-RLS. Now therefore be it resolved by the Zoning Board of the Township of Jackson to enter executive session for discussion of those outlined matters. It is anticipated that the deliberations conducted in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination that public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. Madam Chair, if I may have a request for a motion?
Motion?
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman?
Yes.
Dr. Hofstein?
yes,
Mr. Hudak? Ms. Rosal? Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Okay, we are going to leave the room for a few minutes. We'll be back shortly to resume the meeting.
Can you hear me?
And the audio didn't start until after the professionals were asked to be sworn, and there's no video. I'm not seeing any video. I'm not seeing any video.
I believe the video is on your side.
No, I'm not seeing your video feed. All I'm seeing is the symbol on the screen. I'm not seeing your video feed. All I'm seeing is the symbol on the screen.
close executive session, please.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman.
Yes.
Dr. Hofstein.
yes.
Mr. Hudak.
Mr. Hudak? Yes.
Sorry. Ms. Rosal. Mr. Martins.
Yes.
Ms. Bradley.
Yes. Thank you. Matters for discussion, Mr. Murphy?
Yes, we do have a matter for discussion, Madam Chair, and that is the approval of the settlement agreement with relation to Matsuyok versus the Township of Jackson and the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Jackson. That settlement agreement was discussed in executive session. Upon approval, it was approved by council yesterday evening. Upon approval by the board, that this document will become public record as it will be filed with the court. But I am asking for a motion with regard to the approval of the settlement agreement in that particular matter.
Make a motion?
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hyman.
Yes.
Dr. Hofstein.
Yes.
Mr. Hudak. Ms. Rosal. Mr. Martins.
Yes.
Ms. Bradley.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, that would conclude any matter for discussion this evening.
Any administrative approvals this evening, Mr. Murphy?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, so we're going to move on to our applications. First application is applicant number 528 LLC. They're looking for a time extension for preliminary final site plan 845-1 with minor subdivision 1412 and use variance 3333.
Good evening. Stephen Leone of the firm of Carluccio, Leone, Diamond, Doyle, and Sachs. On behalf of applicant 528 LLC, a Clayton company. We're here to seek an extension. The applicant got an approval in April 20th, 22 for subdivision and site plan approval. The subdivision approval is still good. The site plan expired about 9 months ago. 12, yeah. So I'd like to call our engineer, Mr. Murphy, to explain why the extension is being requested.
Oh, it's nice to see you, Mr. Leone. Mr. Murphy, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony, information, questions, or comments that you're about to present before the board represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you would please state your name, provide your affiliation, and your credentials.
Sure. Brian Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y, 1856 Route 9 in Toms River, licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been before this board, planning board.
Mr.
hundreds of
Murphy,
boards.
this board accepts your credentials. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The project in question, it's in front of the current Clayton garage. Some of you were certainly on the board when we had this approval. We have all our approvals with the exception of the county. As many of you may know, the county is redoing Cross Street and the intersection with Cross Street and Veterans Highway. We're right at that intersection, so the coordination of our project and the light with the county project is integral. And the county keeps changing their mind on exactly what they want at that intersection for us to mesh up to. So that is the delay in our approval. So we have all the approvals with the exception of the county, just because we can't finalize our plans until they finalize their plans. So that's why we're seeking the extension.
I was on the board at the time of this approval, and I actually still have my notes. You guys know how I am. That was one of the conversations, that they were still waiting on county approval at that time and didn't know how long it would take. We didn't know it would be going on 3 years, but, so that was discussed at the time that this could be a potential issue.
Let's clarify, you're seeking a 1-year extension?
Can we get 2 maybe, or 18 months?
I can only do, I think under the
All right.
MLUL, I can only do one at a
Okay,
time.
1 year. That's fine.
All right, I would give it to you
That's
if I
fine.
could.
Can't hurt that.
You've had no extensions previously,
No.
correct? All right.
This is the first one.
So under the MLUL, time extension of 1 year would be permitted if the board finds that the reason provided by the applicant is sufficient to warrant an extension. Again, under the circumstances, as they're waiting for outside agency approval, it would typically be appropriate to provide that 1-year extension. An applicant is permitted to request 3 one-year extensions. So this being their first, I certainly, from a legal perspective, take no issue with that.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second. Roll call, please, Junior.
Mr. Hyman.
Yes.
Dr. Hofstein.
yes,
Mr. Hudak. Ms. Rosal. Mr. Martins.
Yes.
Ms. Bradley.
Yes. Your extension's
you.
been granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to move forward now to application number 3, Love to Howl Animal Rescue, Howling Woods Farm, use variance 3522. You can come forward, Mr. Murphy.
Yes, Ms. McCleary, before we begin, I did just want to advise you, I know I emailed you earlier about the fact that I have 6 board members, which is accurate. I do have to advise you that if your application is going to take more than 1 hour, you're going to lose a third board member in Mr. Hyman. So he has to leave at 8:40. So I don't know if you want to proceed with, in the event that you will only have 5 board members.
Right. Given this new information, may I consult with Mr.
Of course,
Stevens quickly?
of course you may, and I'm sorry this was brought to my attention this evening.
That's okay. I appreciate you letting me know. One moment,
Of course.
I didn't see anything.
Of course, please, take your time.
Well, I have 2 of them. Sometimes I think I'm told that it's removed. Excuse me.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman and members of the board, for that brief time there. Given the circumstances, we filed this application a few months ago. As you can see, we have many people out in support tonight. This information just came about a couple minutes ago from Mr. Murphy. We're really asking for some latitude here if we can get our case started tonight and then, adjourn to have, because we understand it's reckless, essentially moving forward to a vote with just 5 members. We came in tonight thinking we would have 6 members, and we were prepared to move forward, but given the circumstances, we're pleading for a little latitude to allow us to start our case tonight, get our testimony in, and then wait for a vote when there's more than just the 5 members. Unfortunately, we don't think we can get through everything in just an hour. So, and we're prepared, we're here tonight. We put a lot of time and effort into this.
So it's the typical procedure of this board, and it has been for quite some time, that if you're proceeding on your application, you are proceeding at your own risk. Because again, it's a tad unfair to the board members, because they're gonna have, there's certain board members are gonna have to certify and things are gonna have to occur, and, it's sort of something that this board has gotten away from. With that said, I would open the floor to the board members for deliberation on that particular request. Because again, I'm not at liberty to make that decision for you. But I think based upon the request of the applicant, the board can make a determination as to whether or not you would be willing to hear the application and then carry, following the close, to a meeting for a different vote. Now, that is not necessarily an uncommon request. It does, some boards permit it, some don't. It's really a matter of preference. There's nothing that would prohibit it other than the board's typical procedures. So again, I don't know if that's something you want to discuss. I'd welcome your feedback. Obviously, I think we owe it to the applicant to give an indication one way or the other. I hate to take away time with Mr. Hyman, here to do this, but under the circumstance, it's not an unreasonable request, all things considered, and the fact that we will only have 5 in less than an hour. So again, I'd welcome feedback from the board members and perhaps some indication of what you'd like to do here.
Before we have feedback, I just have one question. Being that Mr. Hyman's leaving at 8:40, correct? Are we only hearing testimony until 8:40? Or are we going to hear? I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
The indication from the applicant, as I heard it, was that they wish to get through the entirety of their case, which they will not be able to do by 8:40. So the indication that, at least, Ms. McClure, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I heard. You'd like to put your application in carry once you've closed for a vote at a subsequent meeting. Is that accurate?
Mr. Murphy, it's to the discretion of the board. We'd be happy to even get in our case up until that 8:40 mark if the board feels that that's the best course of action, but we would at least like to start tonight and get at least some of our case out, since we are all here and we're prepared and given the circumstances.
I will tell you from a procedural perspective, given our history and given the board's preferences, I would prefer if the application were to cease at the time Mr. Hyman left and not carry solely for the purpose of the vote. I think that's a better idea, as it's more in line with the procedure of the board. And again, given the circumstance, which is purely outside of the applicant's control, I don't have any particular issue with that. But again, I welcome the board's feedback.
Mr. Hudak, just use your microphone for me.
Sure, Mr. Murphy, I agree with your assessment of the situation, and I think I have a problem with if we hear all the testimony, we don't have enough members, then the other members listen to the tapes, and they're unable to ask questions based upon, the tapes. There's no hearing taking place anymore. So I agree with you that up until Mr. Hyman has to leave, and then we cut it off just so that we have enough members to make a smart vote.
I'm in agreement with that as well, and also that means Mr. Hyman won't have to certify after having heard what part of the testimony he's able to hear,
That's right.
right? So,
Can I just ask, so the carry with I know it's for the vote, the questions in the next, will there still have an opportunity for the council to ask questions?
yes,
So, for example, Mr. Hyman's here up to the point where you're finished, but not enough time for him to ask any questions.
right, no, so we're going to
next time he'll
go,
be able to ask questions.
right, so we're going to go until Mr. Hyman has to leave. They're going to
Yes.
present whatever they can, if
Right.
that's what we all decide. They'll present whatever information they can up until that point.
Right.
Then they will come back at a future date, which we'll have to set.
Yep.
And then they will they will continue and finish their case, and then we would have to vote, and of course,
Right.
they would have public comment and all those other
Right.
things, yes.
Any member that's not here at all.
Correct.
They'll watch the tape, and they'll have an opportunity to ask questions.
Yes.
And just for the,
Fair enough.
I see sorry, my mic wasn't on. I see a lot of public here. Welcome. And in all sincerity, I want to hear from everyone who wants to speak. So Jillian, it would be my suggestion that if we're going to do public comment tonight, which we're required to open, following the testimony, I would suggest that we cease testimony at 8:30 and allow that 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes for public comment, if that's okay. Again, we're not trying to punish you in any way, but again, and we're trying to be sympathetic to the fact that this is the board's issue, not really the applicant. So I think the overwhelming consensus is that we will allow this to proceed with the understanding that at 8:30 testimony will be cut off for public comment. We'll allow public comment. The public comment will be limited solely to what was heard on the record this evening. And we will be in a position to carry this application for a short period of time, have you back to finish it up, all right, when we have enough board members. Again, we don't want to prejudice you either because we only have a certain amount of board members.
Sure.
And you're entitled to
Thank you
your
very much.
supermajority. So you're entitled to a full board because you need a supermajority. Let me rephrase that. So,
I appreciate the latitude the board is affording us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is Evan back on, or should we swear him in?
Voice only? Okay. Evan, you can hear me?
Can hear you loud and clear. I would ask to make sure the members have their microphones on. I cannot hear a few of them when they're talking.
Okay. Please, for Evan's sake, please use your microphones when you're speaking this evening. You got to make these microphones now. You got to make sure the red button is on. Then you got to make sure the microphone itself is on. So both have to be done. Please make sure you speak into your mic. Evan, I'm just going to swear you in because you missed the swearing in earlier. So if you would, please raise your right hand. Do you
raised.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony, information, questions, or comments that you're about to present before the board will represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you would please state your name and your position with the board.
Evan Hill, Board Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Okay, we're ready to go.
Thank you, Ms. Chairperson and members of the board. Good evening. I'm Jillian McClear here from JJJ Law Firm on behalf of the applicant Love to Howl Animal Rescue Farm. I'm here tonight with Mr. William Stevens, our professional engineer and professional planner. And I'm also here tonight with Ms. Colleen Case, who is the supervisor over at Howling Woods Farm. Unfortunately, Mr. Mike Hodanish, who is the owner of the property and operator of the farm, came down with a stomach bug today, so he is quite ill, and as much as he was really looking forward to being here, he just could not be here tonight. He didn't want to get others sick, and he's just not in a position to be here tonight due to his illness. Before I get started, we have a few quick exhibits we would respectfully like to introduce tonight. The first of which is our PowerPoint presentation, which I had submitted to Ms. Augustino a couple of weeks ago. I do have copies to pass around to the board members. If I could have this marked as Exhibit A.
Yeah, that'll be marked Exhibit A1 for the purposes of the record. All right.
Thank you.
In its totality.
We also have tonight a short, about 45-second video clip that I would respectfully request be marked as Exhibit A2. And that will be utilized by Ms. Case during her testimony. And it's on a thumb drive.
Yeah, this was addressed, this was introduced, brought to the board's attention today. If you recall, the board, we had discussed NJSA 40:55D-10B, which requires that all application documents which are sought for approval have to be submitted within 10 days. This is a supplement to that, right? And because it's a supplement to that, there's an exception within that statutory provision. It was my legal opinion that this would be permitted to be marked as an exhibit to be used at tonight's hearing. And accordingly, I would mark that video as Exhibit A2 for identification purposes only because it's subject to the proper foundation.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, this is through the chair. Before we start the testimony, could I just make a brief statement?
Absolutely, Dr. Hofstein.
Representing myself?
Of course.
Some of us received a letter and information from the applicant, which is in the 13-plus years I've been on the board, I've never seen that before. However, he's excited about what's happening, and he jumped the gun on that. But I'd like to make a statement. In the applicant's statement of operations and his personal letter to members of the board, he includes in his statement that his mission is to educate the public about wolves in the wild and allow the public to get up close and personal with some of our wolf dogs, and, quote, to learn about the role of wild wolves in the ecosystem. As a member of the board, I admire his mission and all the hard work he does to make this mission possible. But we are a land use board, and our decisions must be based on land use laws. Therefore, our decision for granting the variance will depend on the presentation of the applicant and his professionals, and whether they can prove that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. And just leave it at that, and we accept what he does, and it definitely will not be used in none of that will be used against him in any decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and that was actually getting to my next point. I did want to bring that up. We have been advised that a letter was sent by Mr. Hodanish to each of the board members. Mr. Hodanish was very hopeful that, just to kind of explain that, he was very hopeful that a site visit by some of the board members could have happened prior to the hearing, but that unfortunately did not come to fruition. Mr. Hodanish is very passionate about this project, and he advised me he thought he was doing the right thing in sending the letter. I apologize. I understand this is not typically how that works. So my apologies about that. And I do have a copy of the letter tonight to introduce as an exhibit if that will rectify the situation, but I will leave that to the discretion of Mr. Murphy.
With regard to the letter itself, I did have an opportunity to read at least one of the copies. I do know that there were separate letters sent to separate board members. I would presume that they said the same thing, but I can't. At this very juncture, I don't know that. I have not seen all of the letters. My position on the letter was the exact opposite of the video. My position on the letter is that it goes directly to the use. And you're seeking a use variance. That should have been, if that were going to be submitted by the applicant, it should have been submitted within 10 days prior to the hearing. The public should have an opportunity to review that. Again, it goes directly to the nature of the use. So my position on that would be excluded from, as an exhibit. Certainly, your witness is welcome to testify as to the use. There's no prejudice because, again, the contents of the letter directly relate to the use, and I presume that we're going to hear that testimony this evening. And perhaps, we can move forward without marking Exhibit A3, because I don't think it's going to be permitted.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Murphy.
You're welcome.
So members of the board, we're here tonight before the board seeking a D use variance and associated bulk variance approval to continue the existing use of the property at issue, which is a wolf dog animal rescue sanctuary and public education facility. Specifically, we're seeking a D1 use variance because animal care facilities are permitted as a conditional use in Jackson Township within the land use ordinance, however, not in the RD zone, which is where this property is located. This site, just by way of brief background, this site has been functioning as a natural wildlife habitat for almost 2 decades now without any issues. This site started off as a farm, and it evolved very organically into what it is today. Howling Woods is a nonprofit public charity. The officers and directors receive minimal salary, and the farm operates on donations and contributions. We're specifically not proposing any site changes tonight, and thus requesting a site plan waiver, because we're seeking to maintain the status quo, which is, simply put, a preservation space for wolf dogs, which is very natural in look and feel. And we submit that it's a great asset to the community, and that the site is a source of significant community outreach and education, which you'll hear about in more detail shortly. Mr. Hodanish and all of the volunteers who are affiliated with Howling Woods are truly passionate about their mission to provide sanctuary for wolf dogs and give back to the Township of Jackson and the public in general. And I'm confident that that is going to come across tonight in our testimony. You're going to see a lot of support for this project, as you can already see in the audience here tonight. And without further ado, and with that being said, I'd like to introduce my first witness, Ms. Colleen Case.
Hello.
Good evening, Ms. Case. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony, information, questions, or comments that you're about to present before the board will represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you would, please state your name, spell your last name, provide your affiliation to this application, and you're a fact witness, so I won't ask for credentials.
Sure. My name is Colleen Case, last name spelled C-A-S-E, and I am a supervisor at Howling Woods Farm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Case, as the supervisor of Howling Woods Farm, are you intimately familiar with the site operations and the history of the site?
Yes.
So let's go through very briefly the history of the site. Mike Hodanish purchased the subject property in the year 2005, correct?
Yes.
And Howling Woods started offering tours to the public in the year 2010, correct?
Yes.
Can you please take us through the history of how the farm developed from 2005 to 2010 when you began offering tours to the public?
Yes. It went back to 2005, where the owner, Michael Hodanish, had to move locations on where he lived because his current wolf dogs that he had as his personal pets kept howling, and the neighbors complained. So he purchased a 10-acre property in Jackson, where we reside now, and he had about 3 wolf dogs at the time. Word got out from neighbors. They found out that he had animals that were part wolf, and he had quite a bit of visitors on a daily basis. And through research in the web, Mike realized that wolf dogs are often surrendered a lot of times because they don't make the best house pets. I like to say they're a lifestyle change, and they require a lot of special needs, how to take care of them, a special diet. So he kept rescuing more. And he had the public visit him on a daily basis, people in the neighborhood interacting with his animals. So he wanted to make something good of representing these misunderstood animals. So he opened up an education facility. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. And throughout the years, since 2005, we rescued hundreds of wolf dogs from around the country.
And as a nonprofit, you operate off of donations and contributions exclusively, correct?
Yes.
And just to be clear, there are no actual wolves on the property, only wolf-dog hybrids, correct?
Yes.
Can you please briefly describe how the rescue process works with the wolf dogs? How does a wolf dog come to live on the farm?
So we get email inquiries or phone calls of people from all around the country, usually wanting to surrender their pet wolf dog that they purchased from a breeder somewhere in the country. And usually when that animal gets to be about 6 months of age, the destructive behavior starts happening in the house, and shelters usually will not accept this kind of animal. So people have to call one out of maybe 13 places that we have in the country to see if they could take in their surrender. And sometimes we get calls of people seeing an animal that looks wolfy or part wolf running loose, and the animal's a stray. We've taken in strays before. And if we have the room, we will do an intake, assess the animal's behavior through a phone call or an email, and decide if we're the best fit for that animal and if we could save its life and help it.
Before we get into how the public tours work, I'd like to take a brief pause to look at the video clip that we just presented into evidence.
Now, this slide is a little bit different than the way I provide. Okay, here it is. Perfect. Again, the first slide, Howling Woods Farm is a nonprofit wolf dog rescue, and we are also an education center. Next slide. We've been a part of the community since 2005, and we've been officially doing tours since 2010. And we do educational tours that focus on wolf behaviors, wolf conservation, and we also work on rescuing animals that are part wolf from around the country, whether that be a surrender or a stray. Next slide. We provide educational lectures to schools, nursing homes. We go to off-site events with our gentle-natured animals to dispel the myths, the negative myths about wolves and wolf dogs. Next slide. What we also do is we go to libraries. We bring 2 of our wolf dogs. We've been to classes, vet and training classes, and we'll provide a 30-minute slideshow talking about our rescue and about wolves and the conservation aspect. We have also, throughout the years, provided scholarships to local high schools. Next slide. Howling Woods Farm is also not only a home to wolf dogs, but it's a home to the natural wildlife of the Pine Barrens. Next slide. We attend different events that we have all kinds of people attend, and they get to take a picture and meet the animals. We also host volunteer team building groups. Next slide. We also host at our facility corporate maintenance stays. We'll have a cleanup day, and a group of volunteers will work on maintenance that needs to be done, whether that be cleaning up the pens, filling in holes, or repairing different structures. And tours is one of the main part of our missions, aside from rescuing these animals. And we provide our guests with a once-in-a-lifetime experience to pet an animal that is a percentage of wolf, while also being educated about how these animals live, the history of wolves in North America, and how they're important for the ecosystem and their conservation. Through generous donations, we provide superior health care for our dogs. We have also hosted numerous weddings at our facilities with our animals included. One of our favorite guest events that we hold yearly during the holiday season is photos with Santa and his wolf dogs. Also, Proudly, over the years, our animals have been featured in multiple different ad campaigns. Yep.
Thank you.
And then just one more thing. I just want to say Howlingwoods Farm wishes to continue as a vital part of the Jackson community and respectfully requests our variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we've submitted a statement of operations with our application. That should be in everyone's packet. And I'd like to confirm some of those items that are contained in our statement of operations. Now, tours occur every Wednesday and Friday between the hours of 11 to 2 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And then you have, the farm has one weekend day slated for tours on either Saturday or Sunday, depending on the particular week, correct?
Yes.
And those tours occur between the hours of 9 and 6 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And each tour is an hour long, correct?
Yes.
And the tours are scheduled on a reservation-only basis, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And tours are limited to 15 participants each, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as to site operations, I'd like to go over some of the information contained in the Statement of Operations. First of all, Mr. Hodanish lives full-time on the property, correct?
Yes.
So that's one of the uses. And he is the only person living on the property, correct?
Yes.
And the farm currently employs 4 part-time employees, correct?
Yes.
And in addition to those 4 part-time employees, you have approximately 50 volunteers who volunteer their time to work on the farm, correct?
Yes.
And for any given weekday, the shift for employees is from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And is it the case that you typically have 3 paid employees per shift?
Yes.
And on weekends, the shift is from 8 a.m. until the last tour of the day, correct?
Yes.
And as to the volunteers, you typically plan to have 15 volunteers on site during the weekend shifts because those tours tend to be the most busy, correct?
Yes.
As to the safety of the site, can you please describe how the animals are contained within the farm and the safety measures taken to ensure containment of the animals?
Yes, we assess each animal's behavior and alter the fencing that is needed for that animal. A lot of times we will do an intake on an animal that arrives to us and we are told it is an escape artist. So we have 2 pens that are 8-foot tall metal privacy fences that have a roof. And we will place those animals safely in those enclosures. All of our other enclosures are 8-foot tall cattle panel fencing. And around the whole perimeter, we have a dig guard system, which cattle panel lays around the perimeter on the ground, and it goes about 2 feet outwards, so the animals will not dig out.
And every animal on the farm is spayed or neutered, correct?
Yes.
And going to your testimony you just mentioned about the fencing and this containment, this is monitored at the federal level for compliance, correct?
Yes.
And more specifically through the United States Department of Agriculture under the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service?
Yes, we have USDA come out and inspect all of our enclosures, and if we need anything repaired, we do the repair as needed.
Okay. I'd now like to refer to the board planner's letter, and I'd like to begin at section 4 on page 5. So the board planner asks us to describe all uses and activities at the site. We already spoke about the fact that there is a single-family residence use at the site, the educational tours, and the sanctuary uses. By the way, you're seeking a maximum of 20 wolf dogs to be allowed on site, correct?
Yes.
Now, there is also an office building on the site, right?
Yes, there is.
Can you just briefly describe what that is used for?
Our office building is mostly stored for our medical records for each animal that we need to provide for our USDA license. We also use it to fill out a lot of paperwork, so it's mainly used for the staff.
And there's also a retail sales building on the site, correct?
Yes, there is.
And that contains souvenirs available for purchase to tour participants only, correct?
Yes.
And per the statement of operations, we also have a special events use, correct?
Yes.
That we're here tonight seeking. Can you please describe examples of on-site special events?
Yes, we do have an open house holiday event, as mentioned in one of the slides, which is photos with Santa. And we do have people that show up throughout the day between 10 and 4 p.m. To get their photos taken.
The planner asked us to provide testimony regarding the effects of the use of the site. So I'd like to briefly go through those items. What do the animals eat for food?
We give them a balanced raw diet that consists of organ meats, bone, poultry, fish. We also supplement them with high-quality kibble once or twice a week.
And how is the food stored for the animals?
We have everything that we get through donation dated, stored in chest freezers that we have. We have about 3 freezers that we store our meats in, and we have any kibble, dog food, stored and dated in containers, sealed containers.
And what is the method of disposal of animal waste?
The method of disposal, we have a waste management company that picks up our waste once a week that is stored, sealed in a dumpster.
In your experience as supervisor of the site, and by the way, how long have you been the supervisor of the site for?
I've been employed for close to 9 years, and I've been a supervisor at the farm for, I want to say, 7 years.
Okay, so in your experience as supervisor of the site, does the site ever produce traffic congestion that you can see?
No, it does not.
And is there any production of noise, glare, air pollution of any sort?
No.
And in your opinion as the supervisor of the site, are there any fire hazards or safety hazards on the site?
No, there is not.
Okay, and just briefly, the planner also asked us to provide testimony regarding the permit history of the structures on the property. Can you speak to that and how the site developed organically over the years?
So we developed any of our structures off of, it's pretty much charity-based and donation-based, and a lot of our structures were just built to provide shelters for our animals for harsh weather conditions because they are outside. So we do have shelter in each enclosure, whether that be a shed or a doghouse. We also provide platforms that are built inside the enclosures for mental enrichment because these are very intelligent animals.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are all the questions I have of this witness for now.
Any questions for this witness?
Yes.
Excuse me,
Just
Dr.
a quick
Hoffman.
one. Why after 20 years, 15 being open to the public, why are you seeking a variance now? What precipitated it?
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Hodanish, as I mentioned, is not here tonight to testify as to that. I'm not sure Ms. Case would be able to
Yes.
testify to that. I can offer a statement.
Okay, that could be answered next meeting. I'm
Thank
sure.
you.
And for all these buildings that were constructed, did you get permits from the town and approval and inspections for them?
Not at this point in time. Mr. Stevens is here, our engineer and planner, who can speak a little further to that. I intend to call him as our next witness.
Okay. And since this is within the Pinelands area, is there a need for a letter of interpretation from the Pinelands Commission?
Respectfully, I would defer to Mr. Stevens with that question. He'll be able to answer that.
Okay, and I guess you will, Mr. Stevens will discuss the structures being in the front yard and et cetera, all the questions Mr. Peters asked in
Yes.
his letter.
Absolutely.
Okay, and just, do you ever get complaints about noise?
Luckily, we do not. Our neighbors actually support us and hold fundraisers for us, and they actually really enjoy the howling. So no, there hasn't been any complaints about the howling.
Okay. just for my own edification, are these dogs a separate breed recognized by the Kennel Club or whatever it's called?
So no, essentially they're just a canine that has wolf in their family history, whether that be one or over 5 generations ago. These animals are man-made for profit from breeders that are located around the country that sell them as exotic pets. And we often get them as pet surrenders for owners that were not prepared for their behavior from when they purchased them.
So these people who take them in when they're puppies have any idea how much wolf and how much dog, I guess?
Yes, sometimes they do. They want an animal that has a lot of wolf because it'll look closer to what we have in the wild, but they're not prepared for the behaviors. They're not aggressive. They're just very, very energetic, very intelligent, and they don't like being confined inside. They're outdoor animals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a quick note to follow up on that. The farm does have DNA documentation. You do DNA testing on each of the animals, correct?
Yes, we do. All of our animals are DNA tested, and we do have those documents in our office.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for this witness?
I have a quick question. How many dogs do you guys have currently in the facility?
We currently have 19 animals.
I have 1 or 2 questions. So you take them in. So do you keep them until they pass away?
That's a great question. Usually, we will assess their behavior and deem if they can be placed, somewhere else that is equipped for them. It depends on, I like to say, genetics a lot of the times of an animal, the disposition, what they're mixed with. Sometimes a wolf dog with more German Shepherd can have different behaviors than one that's more Malamute or Husky. If we don't think they're safe to adopt out because they're an escape artist risk or they're just very energetic, we will keep them for the rest of their lives and provide a safe haven for these animals. We normally adopt out animals that are very, very little wolf, that are pretty much the same as a domestic dog.
Okay, thank you. And so 2 more. As far as the noise and everything, so should I assume that everybody behind you are neighbors that are gonna say, no, we love it? We have no issues as far as noise, right? Because I heard your testimony.
No, not at all.
The howling.
No.
Should I expect that that's what we're gonna hear from your neighbors, that they feel the same way?
No, I promise you that everybody enjoys it.
Okay. All right, so we'll see that. The other question was on the funding, right? So you said everything was a donation. So the tours, right?
Yes.
I want to take a tour. You don't ask me for money, but I can donate.
Yes, so what we state on our website is for an hour-long interactive tour, an educational tour, we ask for a $30 minimum donation fee per adult, and children between the ages of 10 and 13 are $15, which in my opinion is not much to ask for at all. I've seen other facilities that are way out west that will charge $325 for an hour to pet an animal on a leash. But that does provide the food and the vet care and the upkeep of materials that we need for fencing and such.
Right. As far as the food and the raw poultry and everything that you mentioned, is that also donated? Did I hear you say that? Or
Yes.
did you purchase that? That's
Yes,
donated?
we have local hunters donate to us. We make sure we assess the meat, make sure it's all fresh, of course, and we only take donations from trusted providers. We also will purchase a lot of our meat from a restaurant supply store.
Okay. Sometimes you get donations, but it's expired stuff, so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you.
I have another question. Is there any ever incident where these animals have gotten out or, any kind of situations like that? Since you
No, with my time there, no, I have never seen that happen. We watch the animals very carefully, and if we see an animal even attempt to test a fence, we will move that animal to a safer enclosure. We watch them extremely close with their behavior.
And the same with the tours, so there's no incidents with animals attacking anyone or like any kind of, that kind of behavior?
Yes, the only behavior that I say that people will see is the shyness sometimes of some of the animals. Some may trust maybe 3 people and will approach maybe 1 visitor out of a group of 10, all different personalities, but within my almost 10 years of being there, I've never seen an act of aggression. The wolf and the animal usually makes them very cautious, very alert to new people. A lot of our animals are social, but we do have some ones that act more typical like their wild counterparts, very shy and aloof.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any additional questions, Mr. Hudak?
Ms. Roselle took my question about escapes.
Don't forget your microphone.
We all, here in Jackson, many of the longtime residents remember the Tiger Lady and the incidents that we had there. So my question was obviously about escapes, and you stated that there have not been any. But do you have like an escape plan protocol in place in case one gets out?
Yes, we do. I'm one of the first out of the few numbers that are called, and I will drop everything that I'm doing to try to get the animal. Also, all of our animals are microchipped, so if we do need to contact animal control, or if somebody finds one of our animals and contacts animal control, they could scan the microchip and see that they belong to us.
Okay, and my next question was about liability insurance. What do you need to run this place as far as this insurance when you have visitors coming in and meeting strange animals and you know, it seems to me that there could be problems.
Typically, you would think that there could be an issue. We do have all of our visitors sign release forms before they do attend the tour. I like to say that probably the only liability would be, you know, a hole in the ground, maybe somebody accidentally walking to that. But as far as the animals, I don't think they would pose any liability, but we do have them sign a release form before.
So do you know if there's any special liability insurance that you need to carry and whether you have it or not? Or does someone else have that answer?
So Michael would have that information.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Yes, if I may just offer a comment. The farm does have liability insurance. Mr. Hodanish gave me a copy of the document in case the board would like to see that.
And what is their coverage?
Unfortunately, Mr. Hodanish would be able to testify to that better than myself, but certainly I can find that information out for the next hearing. And hopefully he will be able to be there as well.
Thank you.
Not to interrupt the board, I just wanted to point out that it is 8:30. So if the board does not have any further questions, my suggestion for the purposes of procedure would be to cease testimony, sorry, Mr. Stevens, at this time and open for public comment. But again, subject to any other additional questions by the board.
Any additional questions from any board members? Since there's no additional questions by the, excuse me, this room gets me every time. Since there's no additional questions by any board members, we're going to open it to the public. You can come forward and ask any questions or make comments about what you've heard tonight and tonight only. You will have an opportunity, even if you do speak tonight, you can come back next time after Mr. Stevens and Mr. Hodanish, I hope I pronounced that properly, have their chance to present information as well. So if you'd like to speak tonight, don't feel that that means you won't be able to speak next time. So please, if anyone would like to come forward at this time, please do.
Yes, hello, board.
If you would, I'm sorry, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony, information, questions, or comments that you're about to present before the board will represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you would please state your name, if you could lower the microphone maybe a little bit, please speak into the mic. feel free to yell. The board members always say they can't hear anything
don't want
because
me to
the
yell, I'm too
acoustics. Ms. Bradley will be the first to tell you. If you would, please just state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address.
Okay, yes. My name is Pat. My last name is Cacioppo, Cacioppo. I live up in Bergen County, 181 Preston Street in Ridgefield Park.
Thank
Just wanted to, if it was please the board, for me to just read a small note that I provided. My name is Pat Cacioppo. I have been a volunteer, and I have also been a part-time staff and supervisor at Howling Woods Farm for over 10 of its 19 years in existence. Howling Woods Farm has been a staple of the Township of Jackson for these years, and we have provided life-changing encounters and experiences for thousands of visitors and volunteers alike. More importantly, we are one, as Colleen said, of only 13 facilities in the United States that take in these wolf dogs. I refer to them, as I do my tours, as puppies in purgatory. They are not a domestic dog. They are not a wolf. Places like us need to exist to advocate for these animals. Most of our dogs have never even known another home. They need us. Many facilities do not allow public attendance, and therefore the stigmas of killers and what the cinema portrays for these animals, it's not the truth. It continues to shadow these wolves in the wild and wolf dogs. Howling Woods has rehomed and given second chances to countless canines over the years, and we also dispel that falsehood. We would love any of you board members to please come and take a tour. We'd be more than welcome to have you. Our facility is vital to the community, it's vital to the public and to the future of our dogs and even wolves in the wild. And without getting too emotional, on a personal note, I don't know if I'd be able to continue if I didn't have these animals in my life. I've had them in my life. I've seen a lot come, I've seen a lot go. I've been with them for, like I said, over 10 years. I respectfully request that Howling Woods Farms and our owner, Michael Hodanish, with the proper use variances, we can continue our wonderful facility and our mission and provide loving homes for these animals. And I also just wanted to show that if you look up on the internet, there is 5-star ratings for facilities to visit in Jackson. Great Adventure has 4. We are the only one with 5. So thank you very much for just allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Debbie Fry.
If you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony, information, questions, or comments that you're about to present before the board will represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last, and provide your address.
My name is Debbie Fry, F-R-Y. I live in Pennsylvania, 7015 Beaver Dam Road, Levittown, Pennsylvania. I just wanted to let you guys know that I work side by side with Colleen. I'm also on staff and work with her, so we do everything that we can to make sure that these animals are taken care of, that they're provided with the best possible care that we can provide for them with the help of all the donations that we get day in and day out. And like Pat said, I don't know what I'd do without these guys. Not only do they bring a lot to us and everybody here, it makes a big, big difference to be able to prove that they're not big and bad. And then the way that they affect you, it's amazing that you wouldn't think that an animal would have that kind of effect, but they really do. And it's my pleasure to be able to present the truth about them and be able to advocate for wolves in the wild and to be able to provide safe haven for the wolf dogs, like Pat said, are in purgatory, that need a home and need somebody to love them. And it's my pleasure to be able to do that. And I wish that you guys would please grant this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, before the next person comes up, I just wondered if there's anybody in the audience who lives adjacent or within the area of the farm who would get up and speak?
Hi, how are you?
My name is Aneta Mijoya.
All right, hold on one second.
To speak today.
Hold on one second. I have to put you under oath, all right? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony, information, oh, I'm sorry, can you raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony, information, questions, or comments They are about to present before the board will represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you very much. If you would please state your name, spell your last name, provide your address.
Sure. My name is Aneta Mijoya. The last name is Migioia, and I'm a Jackson resident. I live in 912 West Commodore Boulevard.
Thank you.
I've been volunteer in Hollywood Farm for 7-8 years. I worked there also part-time employee for 4 years. I own actually wolf dog at home. My wolf dog lives with 2 other animals. I have a golden retriever and a Rottweiler. And I have to tell you guys that these are amazing animals. And public, we have to misspell the meat. These animals, they are not aggressive. They're very intelligent. They've brought so much joy in my life. Also, I travel a lot. I travel a lot international, and I have a lot of people on a flight from Kentucky, from New York, from other states that actually mentioned Hollywood Farms on the flights. We have a lot of visitors in the farm, and I think Jackson is very famous of having Hollywood Farms in the premises. I would like to see this farm continue and educate the people about these animals. And like I said, I'm an owner of a wolf dog, and he's been an amazing animal. So this is my testimony. So I would like to see the board actually give the permission to the farm to continue with the education of the public and break all this. Like, to be honest with you, I've never seen people from other states asking about the farm, asking about these animals. And like Pat said, we are very famous. The farm is very famous about the existence of these animals.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If I just piggyback on Mr. Hoffstein, I think, one of our concerns is how the impact this has to your neighbors. Right? So if there is anyone in the public that's a neighbor, it doesn't work, you have no interest, right? No special interest in this, and you just want to testify to, is it true that you love the howling and you don't have any problems with all the noise at night, right? Because that is the type of complaints that we get, not just from wolf dogs, but just people that have their own dogs. I have dogs, 4 big ones, and those are the complaints I get, and they have to be out at night. The Great Pyrenees, they have to be out at night. So they're barking, right? It just takes one squirrel and all 4 of them start barking, right? And so that's very different, having 4 dogs bark than 1. And so you have 19 wolves. Are there any complaints like that? Or is anybody that's just a true neighbor? That would be appreciated, I think.
Let me just, so I've been on the board now for, 4 years, right? 4 years, and I can tell you when it comes to any application where there's been anything to do with noise, and that's why I was waiting to see if anyone got up in opposition, what we would call an objector. What's interesting to me is that there's not. Okay, many of you were on the board where we had the application for the motorbike. That side was full. We've had other, different high-density housing, things like that. It's full. I think it speaks volumes. The others, I understand your point as a pet owner as well, but I think it speaks volumes that no one has got as a complaint. There's been no opposition as far, again, you all asked my questions, so I've gotten to sit here and listen. One of my questions was about smell. Nobody got up to complain. Noise. Nobody got to complain. So I think that speaks volumes in itself. I'm just speaking for myself, but I think that speaks volumes that you have no objector getting up. Sir, did you want to get up, though? You, sir, I'm sorry, in the green sweater, did you want to get up? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. I saw you move, and I just wanted not, I didn't want to, All right. So I do think it speaks volumes, in my opinion, about the operation. There's no complaint about smell or noise or anything like that, because trust me, we see objectors for a variety of different reasons on a whole bunch of things.
You know what?
So-
I'll take it a step further. Is there anybody in the audience tonight who is opposed to this application? Yeah, I didn't think so. I'll be honest, I'm a dog lover. If I were voting, you'd have a 100% yes. I don't vote, I'm the attorney, but I love it. With that, I would ask, Mr. Hyman has to leave, so maybe we can shut this application down.
Sure. If I may, Ms. Chairperson, just very quickly on the subject of the fact that there's no objectors here, I feel like I have to mention this. Mr. Hodanish is so passionate about this. He actually he tried to go to every single neighbor within 200 feet with a petition, and he got several of his neighbors to sign in favor of the application. I felt I needed to mention that, given you were just commenting on that, so I do have that here tonight, that we would like to submit as an exhibit if the board were.
Well, hopefully he'll be able to come when you have to come back, and he can speak to that as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd just like
Thank
to
you.
authenticate that, obviously.
Sure.
But I have no issue, I don't, off the cuff, I don't have any issue, but for obvious reasons, I'd like to authenticate
Okay,
it.
thank you very much.
Do we have to pick a new date?
I would ask that you close public session.
Oh, okay. Being that we agreed to end testimony, Mr. Hyman has to leave, we're going to go ahead and close public session. Like I said, that doesn't mean you cannot get up and speak next time after the additional testimony. So we're going to go ahead and close public session, and I believe pick a date for when you're going to come back.
So January 15th is our reorg meeting, because we don't have a meeting on the first Wednesday of the month, which is the 1st. So my suggestion here would, given what is currently on for February, I believe it's the 19th, I do believe that JCP&L application will be taking the entire meeting. I think. I can't say that for sure. There are, currently now, there are 3 applications on for the 5th. There are 2 listed, but we did just carry application number 2. So I don't have agendas past February 19th. So my suggestion to you, if it's acceptable, would be that we put this on the agenda for, I would suggest February 19th, and in fact, I would suggest listing this as number 1 to complete the application. Would that be acceptable?
Yes, thank you. Of course, we would like to come back as soon as possible, so that whatever is
Again, there is a large application involving JCP&L. So I would suggest that this be listed as number 1 on the 19th, February 19th, 2025 agenda. No further notice will be required, and I presume that you'll waive time through that date?
yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. So let me make the formal announcement. Do you have the agenda? Can I just borrow that? Thank you. Application number 3 on this evening's agenda, that is Love to Howl Animal Rescue, Hollingwoods Farm, use variance number 3522, block 18204, lot 2, 1371 West Veterans Highway. This application will be carried to the February 19th, 2025 meeting of the Jackson Township Zoning Board of Adjustment. I will ask our clerk to please list this as number 1 so that we can finish the application that evening and move on to our JCP&L application. All right?
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
You're welcome.
And thank you to the board for your time tonight. If I may, just very quickly, given we are adjourning tonight, we are just reiterating our invitation. The applicant would be very happy. If any of the board members have any interest in coming out to see the site between now and February 19th, we'd be very happy to have that happen and show you how the site works. And I'll speak to Mr. Murphy about that.
And I would like to apologize to the applicant. Actually, it's partially my fault. I did fall ill with pneumonia. I was out for an extended period. It was a mess. And so I would like to give the board members that opportunity, and that's something that you and I can discuss. Thank you for
very
bringing that
much.
up.
I'm glad you're feeling better. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming. Motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Oh, man, you were too funny.
Aye. No, that's not right.
Aye.
I don't care. Oh, Bob, before you go.
Thank you.
I got